Hi guys, Coach Travis Smash. I've been super excited to put together this video and to hopefully make a lot of points that will help a lot of coaches out there. Not this. I'm going to be talking a lot about the sport of Olympic weightlifting today, but I think this podcast there's some points in here that every coach and every athlete, in the world, they could learn from. So let me give you the basis of what this is about. So about 2 weeks ago, I met with Tripp Morris, who is the coach and father of undoubtedly the best American male weightlifter of all time, Hampton Morris. And then about a few days later, I was able to meet with Coach Steve Fauer, who is the coach of Olivia Reeves, without a doubt the best female American weightlifter of all time. And I wanted to see if I could find things I could learn from each of them. I mean, because, who wouldn't want to learn from people who... Here's the other point. They've both been with these athletes since the beginning. So obviously, Tripp has coached Hampton since the beginning, since he birthed the boy. But Coach Fauer has been with Olivia also since she started weightlifting all the way now until they're weeks away from competing at the biggest show in the world, the Olympics, to be held in Paris 2024. So I wanted to see, there's got to be something common where two people in the same quad have produced the best female and male of all time. And what I've learned a lot about both of them. I learned some things that were not the same that I think are some good ideas that I'll talk about, and I've learned some things that they both had in common. I think those takeaways all of us should consider. And then I think the other ones where it's individual could apply to your athlete or not, but I'll explain. But before we get going, I want to give you a few highlights of both. Like Hampton Morris, I'd like to say too, it's been cool because at his first international meet, it was in Colombia. What was it? Was it 2014? Gosh, I might be. Don't quote me on that one. I think maybe, anyway, at the very first, it was a junior or youth Pan American championships in Colombia. I was roommates with Tripp, so I've known them since they first started on that international scene. And let me be clear, like Hampton has always been amazing, but there was a bunch of those boys who are amazing. But that dude has continued to get better each and every single day at a rate, and never really changing weight classes either, at a rate no one has been able to keep pace with. So definitely you want to learn from him. Olivia has been super strong, but she's also developed year in and year out at a very steady rate. But Hampton, 61 kilograms, senior and junior world record holder in the clean and jerk. First senior world record in I forget how many decades, but he clean jerked 176 kilos, weighing 61 kilos. And if, for all of you pound people, that means he weighed 134-ish pounds and was able to clean and jerk 387 pounds. That's crazy. So he also got a silver medal at the Senior World Cup as a junior. And then he was a junior world champion and world record holder, Pan American, everything. He holds all the records, killing people. Olivia, 71 kilogram, junior world champion and clean and jerk world record holder. Gold medal at the Senior World Cup in Thailand. And that, World Cup, World Championship, that was the hardest meet of the year because that was the last chance to qualify. So everybody was there dropping bombs, and she put the bomb on them. But she had to overcome also Kate Nye, who was at the time the best female world champion of all time. She was a silver medalist at last Olympics. So she had to first beat and overcome that girl. So which in my opinion, I think was the hardest accomplishment because Kate is a competitor with a great coach in Spencer Arnold. And her best numbers are 120 kilograms in the snatch, which is 264 pounds, and 151 kilograms in the clean and jerk, 132 pounds, weighing 156 pounds, a female. So for all of you coaches out there with athletic performance, tell your athletes that. It'll humble them real quick. So, I should mention, I didn't really have this written down. She back squats 218 kilograms with just a little belt on, a little flimsy weightlifting belt, no knee sleeves. So you're talking about a 480-pound back squat. So now let's get into it. Tripp. Here are some of the takeaways. Now look, let me be clear. That guy is a scientist. He's a chemist. And so We definitely think alike as far as like the science. I mean, I think he takes it to a degree that no one else does, which I'll explain. But I love his ideas with tracking. So let me just read it off because I don't want to get ahead of myself. First off, he tracks fatigue with jumps and HRV. And so the thing about that is he will, like he said, that the jump could be off, but the HRV is good, so it can still back squat heavy. Which I get it, because if the jumps are off, that's more of a look at the neuromuscular system. Doesn't mean that the peripheral is bad. It just means the brain is not clicking. And to do snatch and clean and jerk, that thing has got to be, it's such a technical sport. That has to be a part of it. Whereas squat is technical, but nothing like snatch and clean and jerk. So that definitely makes sense. But he doesn't just measure it. A lot of us measure it. And a lot of us try to have a plan, but he has a very specific plan. And the plan based on the jumps, HRV, and some subjective questionnaires, is a lot. He analyzes a lot. But he might go heavy. He might stick to just some good volume. He might cut back, or he might just go home. So I like it, and he's got a plan. And that's where, that is the biggest takeaway with as far as his tracking and science goes. I'm definitely taking that. I'm going to have a base plan, but I'm going to be ready to go up, down, or go home. So tracks recovery modalities, and this is where he, unlike anybody, he tracks every single modality, like sauna, cold plunge, hyperbaric chamber, sleep. There's a lot more. Let me be clear. Those dudes did it all, but it's not just to track to see like what's working, but it's patterns to when you have a bad day, and we all have those bad days, and we throw our hands up in the air and we're like, oh man, are we just getting weaker? Is what we're doing not working? And you go back and you're saying, look man, you did half the amount of recovery that you did the week before, your sleep was off, all these things, and it helps you to be more realistic about your results in the gym. So it definitely helps with the mental barriers that we all run up against, because we're not realistic. Athletes are emotional, and like this is a way of like quantifying why you did poorly. So he also sees the physical therapist and a massage therapist every single week. They're very heavy on the accessory work. Blood flow restriction, he swears by it. It's a great way of getting extra volume in some of your weaker muscles and joints without having to cause a lot of fatigue or extra, soreness. Also, he tracks all the data, everything, way more than even me. And I would like to think that I thought that I tracked all the data. It takes it to a new level. But one other thing, athletic cross-training is very important to them. They do jumps, rolls, gymnastics, and I get it. So they're working on proprioception and basically overall neuromuscular coordination. Brilliant. And is literally, this is what I love about Tripp, is almost read every book on the sport of weightlifting and keeps learning. Not just weightlifting, but, both on sports science, exercise science. He's read it all. And he's a scientist. So I respect that. And he keeps learning. He keeps adding. He learns something new, they give it a try, they keep it, or they put it away. I love that. And I think that would be the key that I hope everyone listening will take away, is like, you have not arrived. If you have, it's time to quit. There's always things to learn. So moving on to Coach Fauer and Steve, he's the man, such a great dude. Strength coach, he was played football, D2 football in Nebraska, so brings a lot of experience into the sport, loves weightlifting, and I will definitely say too that he's been doing it longer than any of us. So experience-wise, he trumps all of us. But when he first started, he did what I just said about what the Tripp does. He went to all the coaches. He went to Olympic Training Center, spent quality time with Dragomir. He talked to him about going down to Louisiana Shreveport. Worked with them, and he went to every coach that was killing it and learned from them. Of course, he read the books, he did the thing, and so that's something you all should take away. But so with Steve, fatigue management with movement and velocity of rep, and so he does it. Obviously I use Jim Ware. Everyone probably knows that follows me, but he literally times the whole rep from the time the bar leaves the floor to completion. And there's when it's slower than normal to a certain degree, that gives him a thought in his mind to maybe, cut it, or if it's going faster. But he also looks at the bar path, the movement, overall movement, And based on speed and movement and overall like body language, he might decide to go heavy, he might decide to go light. So same thing kind of as Tripp, but less about the jumps and the measurements as just like body language and movement. So communication is key. I think that's super important. Even Tripp mentioned that too, is that the more communication, the better it is, the more honest communication. There's some funny stories he told me about him in Hampton. I'll let him tell those stories, but it was just funny, like when an athlete, doesn't necessarily tell you what's going on, as if they want to trick you. It's not tricking me. It's not tricking the coach. It's tricking them. So we're here to help them. And so but communication is key. Olivia wins each and every day as far as she knows, because the volume and intensity is based off of fatigue and movement, like I said. So maybe they'll go heavy, or maybe they'll work up to 87% for some volume, or maybe they'll do weights, but it will be based on how she's performing, what she looks like. And so regardless, she's going to have a win that day. So instead of telling them, hey, we're going to work up to a 1 RM, but what if they're not prepared? That's a very arbitrary statement. Maybe they're ready, maybe they're not. So the bottom line is he's very process driven versus performance. So instead of giving her a number to reach, it's all about what he sees in front of him. So it's a win. It's focusing on movement. He's very big on, even at her level, which, she's the best there is, right around the senior world records. And so people could say, well, she's perfect, but he's continuing to work on her movement. But at this point, he said, not to the point where she would have to go backwards. Just small focuses on working on keeping the bar close, staying over the bar, not pushing the bar out in front, all the things that we need to work on. Specificity is king. So mainly they do snatch and clean and jerk from the floor, and they'll do some powers, but they don't do any blocks, they don't do any hangs, none of that. So very specific, and there's a lot to be said for that. I think the Bulgarians would definitely agree. Our sport is the snatch and the clean and jerk from the floor, so it should be the focus. I love what he said too about the back room. The back room and day to day is a relaxed mood with no yelling, no negativity, like he even said he has a new coach in his gym that's the yeller. So if they have the new athlete that really needs that push, he'll give it to him. But with Olivia, that type of communication and that type of coach athlete response is what works for her. So, and I agree. I try to be the same way. Once in a while we'll have a little fun and some yelling, but in the back room, it's key that you stay, relaxed. If you're getting nervous, and I've been guilty of this, so I'm not pointing fingers. If you're nervous, they're for sure going to be nervous. So allows her freedom in her warm-ups to a certain range. So he'll say, you've got at this certain time, you need to be hitting this weight, and so she has the room to take weights as many times as she needs to warm up, to do whatever she needs to a certain point. And then he also, the final warm up, they agree to it. Like sometimes they'll work to their opener in the back room, which I think is a great idea. And sometimes they won't. It just depends on how she's feeling, and gives her some, freedom and some autonomy over her own performance. So they only train 3 to 4 training sessions per week, and really it's 3. The fourth one now is a Tuesday. It's just some front squats and some, slight accessory work, and that's it. It's a really big focus on intensity and relative intensity. It's going to be as high as her body will allow, which brings me to what they have in common. So rolling right along, both Tripp and Steve, their goal is to go as heavy as often as possible. And so even if they might in their brain be thinking, hey, we're going to just work some moderate volume, or they might have that jotted down, if they're athletes, if Hampton or Olivia are looking good, they're going to go. They're going to push it. Both of them agreed that lifting heavy and lifting at or above personal best is a skill, so they're going to do that as often as possible. So it's a little different than a lot of the people out there. So, and like all the research that I've read lately would agree that when it comes to recovery and fatigue, like the higher volume is definitely going to be harder to recover from than just simply going heavy. So something to consider. Do what you want, but their daily sessions are totally based off of their athletes' fatigue level and movement. I will say this: I didn't say it before, but Tripp with Hampton, they train 67 days a week, 67 sessions. Sorry, Thursday is always off, simply for recovery. So, like I said, Steve, 3 big sessions and a 4th one that's small. So that's pretty big, and that's pretty opposite of most people. But I'm gonna talk more about that in a bit. So that every single day is a win for both athletes. It's totally based on their fatigue. Like I've said, sleep is the thing that they all agree should be tracked. Olivia has gone to bed at 9 p.m. and gets up at the exact same time every day. She's done that since high school, and that's the main recovery modality that they track. Tripp is big time on sleep as well. HRV, regularity of going bedtimes and getting up, and they're focused. Both of them are focusing on snatch, clean and jerk, and squat. Neither one of them perform a lot of pulls. So, but I don't know that that's good or bad. That's not the one I'm taking away. I'm still going to continue to do pulls if I see the necessity. So, but neither one of them do. So, something to consider for sure. But that's the thing. And here's a big thing too: is like those two coaches and those 2 athletes have become the best that's ever been in America. And like with Steve, I'm the first coach that's reached out to ask him. So, I would say this, as coaches, whether you're weightlifting, powerlifting, strength conditioning, performance, whatever you are, like if someone is beating you, it's a good idea to look into what they're doing. And maybe instead of like just totally writing them off, maybe look and see, is there something you could have learned? I learned a lot from both gentlemen. I lean more towards Tripp just because I'm a science guy and I love data. And so, but I've learned a ton from Steve, and like his communication. There's a lot I've learned from both of them. And now I'm like, a lot of what I'm doing, I'm not really going to change the basis, but I'm definitely going to change and be very dialed in with the day-to-day. So instead of like, Friday being the only day we go heavy, if Monday they're feeling good, we're going to go heavy Monday. And so, but if they're not. Even if Friday, if we jump them, we look at HRV and things aren't going well, I'm going to change even on a Friday. So, but I'm just going to stick to my, I'm going to go heavy. I'm probably going to go heavy more frequently than I have before. I've always been a coach that we're definitely going heavy once a week, but it might be more often now. So, and I'm going to look more at fatigue than I've ever. I'm going to use gym wear. I'm going to use gym wear for the jumps. I'm also going to look at the squat and the HRV and see what types of correlations we can draw from those 3. But and a subjective questionnaire. I think that's important because just like Tripp said, that if things go poorly, you can sit down and talk to your athlete. I like their feedback to see how in tune they are with their bodies. So like if they think they feel good, but obviously the HRV and the jump says they're not, it's my way of getting buy-in and getting them to understand their own body. And so that's the big one. It was amazing. I hope you guys learned a lot. I hope whatever coach you are, that there's a lot of good takeaways from this. But those coaches were amazing, and I wish them all the luck in the world. I hope they both take gold. I'm definitely been humbled by both of them. I've learned so much. So different, but yet both have taken athletes to the highest level that's ever been in America in the era of drug testing. Especially, they've crushed it. So hats off. You guys can go to matchelite.com to check out all of my free content, also some new products I'm offering. Go to gymwear.com to read all of my articles, to the blog section. And definitely go check out Olivia Reeves, Hampton Morris, Tripp Morris, and Steve Fauer. I know Tripp, he used to be raw chemist, but he changed it to something. But I'll put their information in the show notes for sure. Hope you guys learned a lot. I sure did. Thanks.